Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for TEAC 8.10b, the Economic and Geographic Features of the 13 Colonies. Today's TEAC, compare places and regions of the United States in terms of physical and human characteristics. Your learning objective. I will be able to differentiate between the geography and economies of the 3 regions of the 13 colonies. To begin, we know the 13 colonies were the original parts of the United States. Take a minute to look over this color-coded map and differentiate between the New England colonies in red, the middle colonies in pink, and the southern colonies in yellow. We know that each of these regions or these groups of places that share characteristics were the foundation of what is now the United States. And we know that there were different states in each region. So for example, New England has Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut. The middle colonies, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And lastly, the southern colonies, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Key point 1A. The geographic features of the New England colonies are poor soil, cold climate, natural harbors close to the Atlantic Ocean, and long, harsh winters. So in the New England colonies, we know that they border the Atlantic Ocean. There are many spots that serve as natural harbors for the New England colonies that touch the Atlantic Ocean. We also know that there is very poor soil in New England. It's rocky, it's very hard to grow things in, as demonstrated by this photo. We know that there is cold climate, that is snowy, and it has long, harsh winters. One of the most important features are those natural harbors. So if we look at this image, we're seeing in the top left, we're seeing different locations for natural harbors across New England. This is a very important geographic feature for the region. So now that we've familiarized ourselves regarding the geographic features of the New England colonies, we're now going to make the connection between geography and economics. So what is the difference between, what is the connection between a place's geography and their economics? So one example is on the screen. We know New England is heavily wooded and has lots of forests. Forests mean trees. So an economic industry or a way that they can make money off of the land is logging or by timber, which is cutting down trees and using the wood. Another example. So here, this is showing you some of the many natural harbors in the New England colonies. How can you make money off a natural harbor? Well, there's kind of 2 options here, fishing and shipbuilding, and both of which were industries in the New England colonies. So here's your first question. I'm going to read the question, and then you're going to pause the video and answer. Looking at the physical geography of New England, how might they make money? Pause the video and answer audibly. So the answer to this is they make money from shipbuilding and fishing. So we talked about the natural harbors' close proximity to the New England colonies, which is a prime reason for them to build boats and for them to use to catch fish to sell for profit. We are now moving on to the geographic features of the middle colonies. The geographic features of the middle colonies are rich soil, deep rivers, mild winters, natural ports, and a moderate climate. So when we say a moderate climate, because the middle colonies are south of the New England colonies, they have a much nicer climate. So they don't have those cold, harsh winters that the New England colonies have. Instead, their weather is more temperate and more mild year-round. They also have much nicer soil for growing crops. They do get snow, but not as drastically as New England does. And they do have a moderate climate that makes for a stronger growing season. Knowing that, we can now infer what the economic features of the middle colonies are. The economic features of the middle colonies are large farms, logging, shipbuilding, fishing, and being known as the breadbasket because of their high production levels of wheat, rye, and oats. Here is your first MRS for the middle colonies. I will read the question. At that point, after reading the question, please pause the video and select your response. The middle colonies and the New England colonies have similar economies, but the middle colonies are known as the breadbasket for growing wheat, oats, and grains. Why? Number 1, the New England colonies are closer to the coastline. 2, the middle colonies have more religious diversity. 3, the middle colonies have had a more moderate climate, thus longer growing season. 4, the New England colonies have fertile soil that is ideal for growing crops. At this point, please pause the video and select your response. The correct response is number 3. The middle colonies have a more moderate climate, thus a longer growing season. Look at this list of qualities. Circle or select the terms that relate to the physical geography and economy of the middle colonies. Please remember this question is asking you specifically about the middle colonies. Pause the video now to select your responses. Lastly, we're going to talk about the southern colonies. The geographic features of the southern colonies include rich soil, navigable rivers, raw materials, open areas, and a long growing season. What we mean by open fields are that the southern colonies have large unoccupied spaces compared to the middle colonies and New England colonies that have larger spaces are often occupied by forests, which are not ideal to grow on. The economic features of the southern colonies are cash crops, plantations, and the usage of slave labor. What we mean by cash crops are crops that are not grown to be used by a family or an individual, but instead are sold to make a profit. Cash crops include cotton, indigo, which is a form of dye, and tobacco. These are crops that are grown to sell large scale for people to consume. They're not necessarily something you would just grow for your family. Because of the large plantations, which are just very, very large scale farms, many of the people in the southern colonies made use of slave labor to work on these large scale plantations to produce cash crops. Same as the last question. Circle the terms that relate to the physical geography and economy of the southern colonies. Please note that this question is now asking you to find the terms related to the southern colonies. Pause the video at this point and select your response. Second MRS. Why was slavery more common in the southern colonies instead of the New England colonies? Use 2 sentences for your response. Answer now either in writing or in words. Why was slavery more common in the southern colonies instead of the New England colonies? Use 2 sentences for your response. Take a look at these maps that are depicting the different growing seasons across the regions. Take note, New England, middle, and southern colonies, and how each one has a different growing season. Note how the growing season in the New England colonies is very short, and as you move south through the 13 colonies, the length of time for the growing season increases. In the middle column, note the quality of soil. Note that the land is not very fertile in the New England colonies, but is significantly more fertile in the southern colonies. Lastly, take a look at this chart showing us the geography between the three regions of the 13 colonies. To recap, the New England colony is the furthest north. They have a cool climate with cold winters, rocky soil, and they have a very short growing season. This makes their natural resources more important than agricultural crops. In other words, New England did not grow many cash crops because their geography made growing any type of plant nearly impossible. The middle colonies are known for warm summers, cold winters, good harbors, and ideal for agriculture. The southern colonies have the warmest climate and have the best growing season, which is why they were home to plantations and cash crops. Let's return back to our learning objective and see how we did. Let's remember that our goal was to be able to differentiate between the geography and economies of the three regions of the 13 colonies. Thank you for watching.